Hey, Ari here from the Tech Buyers Guru, and I'm going to be bringing you a review of Logitech's brand new G915 Lightspeed wireless mechanical keyboard today. Now, this is a keyboard that, frankly, I didn't know was coming ahead of time before it dropped. And truth of the matter is that it kind of is one of a kind. I have a couple of keyboards that I'm going to be comparing it to today. First of all, we've got Logitech's G613 wireless mechanical keyboard, released in 2017. Now, because this is wireless and mechanical, this has a lot in common with the G915, but actually it also has a lot of differences. This was kind of a very plasticky keyboard. It did not have RGB lighting, and frankly, I never felt that it was really that competitive. In terms of its mechanical switches, it uses the Romer G switches, and I just never felt that they were that great. It's also fairly thick. This is not a low-profile keyboard. I will also be comparing the G915 to the only other low-profile keyboard from a major manufacturer, and this is my favorite keyboard at the moment. It is the K70 low-profile from Corsair. This uses Cherry's MX low-profile switches. This is a fantastic keyboard, but of course it's wired. Now that allows it to have great RGB effects with no concern about battery life. You don't need to worry about recharging it, but there's a pretty thick cable coming out of it, and I find that pretty inconvenient a lot of times when I'm trying to get things moving around my desk. So I love the action of this keyboard. I've reviewed it on the channel and I said I loved it at the time. I still love it. I use this every day. But it's a wired keyboard. And I'm all for the next iteration of mechanical keyboards. And if Logitech's able to beat it, the G915 may be my new favorite. All right. Now, a couple of caveats about this. First of all, this is the Clicky version. Now, there are three versions of the G915. They've got a linear switch version, which makes basically no noise. Then there is a tactile version, which has a bump in the travel. And then there's this clicky version, which has both a bump, a tactile bump, and a clicking sound. So this should be the loudest of the Logitech G915 keyboards, and it will probably be quite a bit louder than either of the other two keyboards I have here. So that may put it at an advantage or disadvantage depending on what kind of keys or key switches you like. I should also note what we actually have in here. These are low profile switches, so it actually has in some ways more in common with this wired Corsair keyboard than the previous wireless Logitech keyboard. But these are made by Kaihua, and they're the Kaihua branded switches. Now, I can't pronounce either of those words because frankly they're Chinese. And I always am concerned about those off-brand switches. Now, I'm calling it off-brand. Maybe that's not fair. I've come to trust Cherry branded switches out of Germany. Maybe the Kaihua branded switches are going to be just as good. Other thing you should know is that the prices aren't exactly comparable. Now, Logitech is not being shy about setting the price of this. It's $250. I believe the G613 came out at $150 2 years ago, and as of today, the MX, the K70 low profile sells for about $135. I think the retail price is $170. This is $250. That's a heck of a lot more. And like I said, Logitech is not shy about this. They're not embarrassed about it. They believe that they've got the best tech. Now, they have these Kaihua switches. They have their Lightspeed wireless system, which is fantastic in mice, by the way. It was also used in the G613. And they've added that RGB while also running on batteries, which nobody else has done. So in a sense, if you want the best, or at least the greatest number of features, Logitech has already won, and that's why they're charging $250. But ultimately, it has to perform, and that's what I'm going to determine in this test. Does it have the feel of my favorite keyboard, the K70? Does it at least match the wireless responsiveness of the G613? Is it really the best of all worlds? Let's start with what you get in the box. So we just have some paper liner, and there's the keyboard. Not a whole lot of packaging going on here, pretty simple. One of the things that Logitech is very proud of with this keyboard is the thinness. It's 22 millimeters thick. Just at first glance, it does look to be slimmer than the K70 low profile from Corsair, which is pretty amazing considering this also has a battery in it. What else comes in the box? You get, I guess, an instruction manual if you need that. The G915 specific dongle. I know that some people are familiar with the universal nano receivers that Logitech uses for its non-gaming peripherals, but you actually need a specific dongle for each of your peripherals in the gaming world because of the high throughput of those devices. Basically what you have is this cable here. This is a charging cable, and you can either, at the end of it, plug in your dongle, or you can take this off and plug it directly into your keyboard to charge it. So you can have this kind of near your keyboard or maybe behind your desk where the receiver sits, just like that. You can also, of course, plug the receiver directly into your PC if you'd like, as long as it's not too far away. I'm not too concerned about the Lightspeed technology. I've used that on their headsets and it goes like 60 feet. But, you know, for optimum performance, you don't want anything in line of sight, so in your line of sight. So you might want to put that on your desktop. So that's basically what comes with this. It's pretty simple. The packaging is pretty simple. Logitech has not spent a ton on making this super fancy, but that's fine. We don't need fluff in our keyboards. We just want a keyboard that works. So again, here it is so far. It's looking great. It has that aluminum faceplate. I believe that's aluminum. Yeah, it's pretty thin. It's beautiful. This is a real step up for Logitech, which has tended to stick with kind of a plasticky look, and I think this is a good look for them. Note that there is no wrist rest. Logitech's claim here is that this is so low profile that you can't really have a wrist rest that would do any good. Basically, your wrists can rest on your desk because it's so low profile. So let's get into how it operates. I'm going to show you around the G-Hub software. Here's the RGB effects. Color wave is the default. It's a very nice looking left to right pattern. I also really liked Echo Press, which shows you the keys that you're pressing in real time. And I actually really like that because I could kind of look down and see the keys I pressed, and I think that helped my accuracy. Here's the program mode. I programmed a gradient from bottom to top. That's the freestyle. And then there's animations, which are kind of arbitrarily set apart from presets. They're maybe slightly more complicated, like this crashing wave pattern that you can see going across the keyboard. But honestly, most of these are just other presets, and I don't know why they're in the animations category. Now let's take a look at the programming that you can do with keys. Here, these are the G keys. I programmed them to my favorite apps. I was a little disappointed I couldn't program any of them to sleep the computer. Now I'm also going to show you the various lighting levels and the battery. You can see up to 137 hours with 25% or 1102 hours with no lighting at all. One thing I was annoyed at was that it would automatically dim after 1 minute. I always caught that in the my peripheral vision, and I shut that off immediately. Another thing that really annoyed me was the onboard memory mode. You can only access your custom lighting when it's off, and you can only program and assign them when it's on. It's totally counterintuitive. So I'm going to turn on my onboard mode, but then I can't adjust my stored custom lighting. And you can also see you lose all control of low battery mode in active lighting. You basically don't have any controls when you're in onboard memory mode. It basically disconnects it from the software. If I want to access my defaults, I have to turn it back onto the software mode. All right, let's move on to some noise tests. This is a test of the Corsair K70 Mark II low profile. This is a test of Logitech's G613 Lightspeed wireless mechanical keyboard using Romer G switches. And finally, we have the new G915 wireless mechanical keyboard from Logitech. Let's see how it sounds. actually love the sound of these keys, but I do think there's one issue with the keycaps regarding lighting it. I'll show you right now. These keycaps have pretty small letters on them, so compared to Corsair, for instance, Corsair actually redesigned the keycaps on its K70 to have larger letters, which kind of looked goofy, except it let a lot more light through. So that is one issue. These are pretty small letters, more traditional. Also, the keycaps are pretty small, so I find, just the top of the keycaps, I find this feels a little bit like a laptop keyboard, even though it's actually full size. All right, there's really no better way for me to show you how this keyboard works in a game than to show you how it works in a game. So I'm actually going to get into a round of Battlefield 5 here. First thing I should mention, I just did try the Bluetooth for a moment here. I am attached, I am connected via Bluetooth. You can see I can type here. Bluetooth seems to work. I would not game on Bluetooth. I would not use it unless you don't have your wireless dongle with you. Let me show that to you again. So this is, I am going to be playing wirelessly. I've got it in my hand. I'm going to be plugging it into the computer. And we're going to get going. Let me switch to Lightspeed here. It should connect immediately. Let's see. It did. All right, I'm playing the brand new Operation Underground. This was just released today, actually, for Battlefield 5. So you're going to see me, and I'm going to be giving you some comments on how this keyboard works. Now, my personal opinion is generally that a mouse makes a bigger difference in terms of your gameplay, but let's see how this works. You know, the reason that a mouse matters so much more is that a lot of the time I'm just holding down a key here on my keyboard. I'm not actually doing much with the keyboard at this moment. My teammates are getting gunned down, and I got gunned down. Yeah, so mostly I'm holding down a key. You know, it depends on what kind of game you're playing, whether or not you're doing a lot of keyboard presses. Another thing I'll mention right now is, of course, it's got the G keys, which is kind of a Logitech G trademark. Because I'm a touch typist, I find that a little bit distracting. Often I'll be reaching for the control key or the caps lock key or shift key, and I'll hit G5, G4, G3. All right, I'm going to get back in the game here. Here we go. Now, because I've got headphones on, I really don't know if the clickiness is an issue. So, you know, overall, I'm going to say I love this keyboard for typing. It's not my favorite for gaming because the keycaps are just a little bit too small. I feel like my finger almost kind of is always on the verge of sliding off because the keycaps are so small. And they're pretty flat too. So my finger doesn't really kind of hold it very well. So what do I think? Well, I love this thing for typing. For gaming, well, it's just as responsive as a wired keyboard. Of course, the lighting looks great. There is a little bit of inconsistency with connecting to G-Hub. And like I said, I think these keycaps are just a little bit small and flat for my personal preference when gaming. All right, but overall, I guess I can take this off now. Overall, how do I rate this keyboard in terms of my usage patterns? Well, I'm mostly not gaming most of the day, and I love it for typing. I just feel so connected because of that clicky feel, and it's because the travel is so short. I feel my accuracy has gone up tremendously versus even the Corsair low profile. But for gaming, this is not my favorite keyboard. It just feels too light, too small. Doesn't feel robust enough. I guess I even missed the wrist pad on my K70 wrist rest. So, you know, is this the be-all, end-all? I actually love it. I actually really love it. But it's not going to be perfect for everybody. Even so, I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. And that's considering the cost of this, $250. I think it's an awesome tour de force of technology. I love the look of it. I love the feel of it. I love that it's wireless. I love that it's RGB. I love that it's mechanical. I love the clicky feel. I love these. I am totally sold on these, what I called knockoff switches earlier in this review from Kaihua. I think it's great. The only thing I'd probably change, and you know, I think Logitech could do this. Long term, they may come out with another version using the low profile switches, but maybe not being really bringing back more of that gamey look that they've gone with a lot of their previous keyboards. A slightly bigger keyboard with a wrist rest, maybe larger keycaps, maybe a little more curvature of the keycaps. I think they could easily do that and yet still apply the technology underpinning this keyboard, which is fantastic. So yes, 4.5 out of 5 stars, despite the cost, despite the fact that I don't think it's the best gaming keyboard out there. So there you go. Hope you liked this review. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.